Hey guys. Okay, so if you saw the post that we put up earlier, you would have seen that unfortunately the magic board, it's MIA. Yeah, I know, it's a tragic moment. But it's okay. I think B's husband, he'll be able to put it back together for us. At least I hope so, because I love that magic board. Anyway, had to find an alternate location to record this week's video from. It just so happens that I have two meetings back to back in West End with a teeny bit of time in between the two. So I thought, hey, I may as well make advantage of that time, or take advantage of that time, is probably a better way to say it, and jump in the car and record this week's video. So, what's this week's video? Well, this week we're going to talk all about illegal building work. See, people often come to me and rather sheepishly go, so, what if we were just to just go and do it? Like, what do you have to say to that? Look, I'd be naive to sit here and say, that never happens. How dare you even suggest such a thing? Let's be real, it happens. However, there are three key things that you do need to keep in mind before you charge down the path of doing something unlawful. And in this week's video, we're going to actually talk through what those three key things are. So if that sounds like it's something that interests you, you know what to do. Stick around. Okay, so like I said at the beginning, I would be naive to sit here and say, how dare you ever suggest such a thing? That never happens. Let's be real. Council doesn't have the luxury of infinite resources. They don't have the ability to go around from house to house, street to street, suburb to suburb on a daily basis looking for unlawful building work. Therefore, the reality is these things do slip through the cracks. However, before you go getting excited and charging and doing all this unlawful building work, there is three things that you do need to keep in mind. So, number one, complaints. Now, these complaints can come from the most obscure or unexpected scenarios or outcomes or situations, whichever word you want to use. So often they come up, let's say you've peeved off your neighbour. You're constantly parking out the front of their property, or you've dropped some of your branches over the property. People get peeved off over the smallest things. It continues to surprise me. But anyway, you've driven them insane. They actively go looking for something to ping you on. Someone happens to say, well, do you know if the carport is lawful? Or do you know if that gatehouse is lawful? Boing, complaint made. You're done with. Another example is someone might down the road go, hey, to council, hey, I want to do a carport, just like Joe, 2 doors up. And all of a sudden council goes, oh, hold on a sec, that carport's not lawful. Unfortunately, that then leads to an investigation, leads to complaint, blah, 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 blah. So yes, it's not always from the obvious sort of source. Sometimes the complaints can be generated from little obscure or unexpected ways, and council does have a responsibility to investigate each of those claims, or each of those complaints, I should say, and tip-offs. So you're constantly going to be sitting there going, oh, could I get busted for this? Could tomorrow be the day that I get a complaint that council has to investigate and I get forced to pull this down? So that's the number one that you need to keep in mind. Number two, what was I going to make number two? Oh, resale. Okay, so when you go to sell the property, any half-smart purchaser these days is going to do their background work to make sure that the property, everything built on the property is lawful. You don't want to be at a point where you've got a property under contract and you get backed into a corner and that person says, oh, I've just realised that carport's unlawful. I want to drop it 50 grand or I want to drop 100 grand. At that point, you're committed to you're mentally, emotionally committed to the sale. You don't want that pressure being placed on you. Or worse still, you don't want them to go, no, we don't want to borrow it. We're walking away. It's too risky. It's not what we want to take on board. So, yes, you may get away with it. You may sit here and go, but I don't care in the short term about point 1 and point 3 we're going to get to. But you need to think down the track when it comes to maybe a fire sale situation. You never know when you're going to sell. Do you want that extra pressure hanging over you? Do you suddenly want to lose a large portion of your potential buyers because the structures on the property are not approved? Now, we go to number 3, insurance. It sort of came about in the 2011 flood. Suncorp, I believe, was the first one to start doing this. I'm not going to say half-smart insurer because most of them aren't quite on board yet, but insurers these days are wising up to the fact that they can void a claim if the structure is not lawful. So basically, if you put a claim in because your garage has been damaged and they turn up and they find that garage was never actually approved by council, they can turn around and say, we don't have to pay out. Now, if you're talking about something small like gatehouse, carport, probably not a big deal. You can sit there and go, we'll take that risk. If they happen to void the claim, who cares? We'll pay it out. But if you're talking like the example I gave before, which does come up quite frequently, where someone wants to move a gym into an industrial area, you're talking big buckies there. Big bickies, not buckies, big bickies there. So number one, you got the fit out cost, you got the gym equipment cost, all of that sort of stuff. But more importantly also, that's just focusing on the property damage. What about the personal risk? So again, I'll go back to a gym example. What if someone injures themselves whilst they're in your gym? Then are you up for a liability claim? Do you really want that hanging over you? That to me is the kicker. Like the first two, the complaint, okay, yeah, you could potentially go, well, I'm really good with my neighbours, it's never going to happen, live in kind of la land and hope for the best. The resale, you can go, that's future me's problem, I don't need to worry about it. But insurance, particularly insurance risks for people, that's a big one to keep in mind. So, like I said in the beginning, I'm not going to sit here and say it never happens. I'm not going to sit here and say you cannot do it, because technically you probably can, but there are three major issues that you need to consider and you need to weigh up. The most important, in my personal opinion, being insurance. Now, if you are looking to purchase the property, the flip side is you need to sit there and just go, oh, hold on a sec, do I want to take on the responsibility? Do I want to take on those three risk factors when purchasing a property? If you are willing to, then you need to, when you're purchasing, then you need to sit there and say, okay, well, how much am I going to take the price down? Yeah, something to keep in mind. Anyway, I think that's the 3 points that I wanted to get across today. I better run because I've got to go to this meeting. Until next time, thanks for watching.
For all you red tape lovers out there, I have one thing to say. Well, no, actually, I've got three. Number one, the advice provided in these videos is general in nature. It's not site-specific. You would be a silly Billy to go and make financial decisions based on this advice without first checking with the town planner. Don't be a silly Billy. Number two, Brisbane town planning is in no way linked to Brisbane City Council. The views expressed in these videos are my own, not council's. So if you don't like them, blame me, not council. Number three, what was my number three? Oh yeah, the views expressed in these videos are accurate at the time of recording. If you're watching this video back 10 years from now, the views may not be so accurate. That's all. Bye.